little bit. Sure. And make sure. I'll do it too, huh? These are words. Taken away from us so very long. They're coming back. They had a name wrong. Today the Duwamish stand just as my grandfather, welcome people this time. He says, "La Leo, come ashore, bring your canoes ashore. La Leo, this Duwamish are honored that you are. So we say again, La Leo, this bring your canoes ashore, my friends. You are welcome here on this ancient land. Recognize that the world is a much smaller place. So we hit down simply means all people are welcome. Just as my grandfather said these words 172 years ago, my honor to stand. We hit down. We hit down. We hit down. All are welcome. I used to at the door. I am working on it. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Aurora Martin, and I serve as the Advisory General Counsel for the Duwamish Tribe. I want to just do a couple of friendly reminders to please turn off your cell phone sounds. And for each speaker, I'm going to try and adjust this microphone because I want to acknowledge that there are well over 300 participants who are joining us by Zoom. Those who are friends and allies and supporters and reporters, policymakers of interest. We are at a point in time where we are able to gather today in this combined in-person and Zoom technologically interesting moment. I am honored to be a guest, a friend, and now an advocate of the Duwamish Tribe in this sacred place, the Longhouse, which serves as the tribe's headquarters and sits in a portion that has long been the home of their Duwamish tribal ancestors. I want to acknowledge the many tribal members here and on Zoom today. It has been a long journey, and the announcement today comes on the heels of a powerful and inspiring annual membership gathering we just had this past weekend. I want to especially acknowledge our friends and allies from the Chinook Tribal Nation and the Snohomish Tribal Nation. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for standing with the Duwamish Tribe all this time. I want to acknowledge Johnny Moses as well, longtime spiritual leader. Thank you for joining and standing with us today as well. I want to acknowledge all the policymakers who are present with us by Zoom and also who have sent along their greetings and support. Before we get started, I wanted to make sure that all of you knew Our tribal council members, our Duwamish Tribal Services Nonprofit Board of Directors who are with us today, as well as our special speakers and our legal team. I'm going to take a moment to ask the tribal council as well as the speakers and legal team to introduce themselves so that everybody on Zoom as well as in person has the full picture.
Cecile Hansen, Chairperson of the Duwamish Tribe.
Ken Workman, council member of the Duwamish Tribe, Fowler family.
Desiree Fagan, Garrison family.
James Rasmussen, Tuttle family.
Lupe Barnes, board member.
Russell Beard, council member of the Curly Sherman family.
John Cruz, Secretary, Duwamish Tribe.
I'm Christina Pearson. I'm of the Oliver family and I'm a DTS board member.
Generoso Tandiama, also a board member, and Oliver family as well.
John Bodie, council member.
Family, Fowler.
Cynthia Williams from the Garrison family.
Roger Bodie from the Fowler family.
Paul Nelson, council member from the Seymour family.
Bart Friedman, K&L Gates, counsel to the Duwamish Tribe.
Tim Hobbs, K&L Gates, also counsel to the tribe.
Shelby Stoner, K&L Gates, the legal team.
Reverend Dr. Kelly Brown, senior pastor at Plymouth Church, United Church of Christ.
Lori Bohm, Real Renter and Duwamish Solidarity Group member.
And continuing with the legal team, Theo Angeles, K&L Gates for the tribe.
Andre Soleil, K&L Gates, also with the tribe.
Ben Mayer, K&L Gates, also legal team for the tribe.
Natalie Reed, K&L Gates, also counsel for the tribe.
Thank you. I also want to acknowledge that there have been many friends and partners and supporters also on Zoom and in the room, those who have endorsed publicly the federal recognition petition of the Duwamish Tribe, the ACLU of Washington, Solid Ground, Duwamish River Community Coalition, MLK Labor Council, UFCW, and so many others. Thank you for standing with us. Today's announcement is really about this message of hope from the Duwamish Tribe. As many of you may have noticed, there was an open letter to our sisters and brothers of all tribal nations, community members near and far, and elected federal politicians and policymakers. And this message is a message of goodwill, promoting peace and strength as a collective voice with our great Pacific Northwest tribes, recognized and unrecognized. Our tribe advocates for justice and recognition long overdue. However, the United States Department of the Interior seems to think that the Duwamish tribe that signed the Treaty of Point Elliott in 1855 somehow ceased to exist at some point over the past 167 years. The Duwamish tribe have not ceased to exist. The Duwamish tribe have not ceased to lead and govern. The Duwamish tribe have not ceased to gather and promote their culture and to learn and to contribute to this very present day and future of the city of Seattle. The Interior Department's denial of federal recognition is incorrect, both as to the facts and the law, and today you will hear from the legal team as to what that means. But before we get into the details of the public announcement, I want to actually share a little bit of how we're going to go through today, because today has been a long time coming for justice due. We're going to start with some leadership wisdom and testimonials from Chairperson Cecile Hansen, who has led the fight of a lifetime. We will then proceed on with 3 other tribal council members who will be able to speak to the issue of culture, of education, and the integrity of our tribal governance. And then from there, we will also have a statement from our board president, Lupe Barnes, of the nonprofit arm of the Duwamish Tribe. We will then hear from our mighty legal team. And then we will also end with our key supporters and testimonials from the Reverend Brown, as well as Lori Bohm, representing nearly 21,000 real renters and members of the Duwamish Solidarity. We will then have an opportunity to answer questions in person and also by Zoom for just 15 minutes, but then right afterwards, no photographs and no media will be allowed for the exclusive prayer circle for tribal members, friends, and those who want to participate. Because of the momentous time that we feel it is today, we want to envelop ourselves and the tribe to lift up our voice high. So I'd like to invite now the Honorable Tribal Chair Cecile Hansen to share her leadership wisdom of what has been the fight of a lifetime.
Thank you, Aurora. Welcome to the Longhouse, Duwamish Tribe. I am Cecile Hansen, Tribal Chairperson of the Duwamish Tribal Council. I descend from the Oliver family. I am the great grandniece of Chief Seattle. I descend from a long line of brave tribal women like Chief Seattle's daughter, Princess Angeline. I want to thank all our friends and allies who have taken the time to stand with us today. Our friends from the Chinook, the Duwamish, who also await justice from the federal government. I want to thank our tribal council for continuing to lead, our people for continuing to participate, and our board of directors of our nonprofit who have helped steward our services. Today is a very important day, as the Duwamish Tribe have filed a lawsuit in federal court, and we're demanding justice long overdue. I want to thank our legal team and Federal Acknowledgement Committee for their collective expertise. As the longest serving tribal chair from the unbroken line of Duwamish leaders, I have been fighting for federal acknowledgement from the 1970s. For 45 years, I've been repeating the words of our leaders loud and clear. We are still here. It all started out with my brother Manny, who kept getting cited for fishing in the Duwamish River. And as his big sister, I had to do something when he asked for help. Fishing was his livelihood. And so many of our people relied on the right to fish and hunt and work and continue participating in our culture. Duwamish Tribe has been a treaty tribe since Chief Seattle signed the Point Elliott Treaty in 1855. This is a fact, it's undeniable. When Chief Seattle signed the treaty, he signed the treaty government to government agreement on behalf of our tribe, his mother's tribe, the Duwamish Tribe, and his father's tribe. However, the Department of Interior seemed to think that the Duwamish that signed the Point Elliott Treaty in 1855 had somehow ceased to exist at some point in the past 167 years. I said, we're still here. Just like the Chief Seattle's mother, I'm now the great grandmother watching my many generations of the family. There goes one. The family member who wait for justice. Princess Angeline, who back then was the only Native person allowed to live in Seattle with harassment after the Point Elliott signed. Story goes on that she was determined to stay in the only place she knew, and it was her home. As of her advocacy and her determination and toughness. I think that probably she got that kind of courage and stubbornness to keep living from her mother, Chief Seattle's Duwamish wife. Well, people tell me I'm a little stubborn myself because for 45 years, I have also stayed in this place, leading the tribe to a restoration of our tribal rights. And as I will tell you, my children kept saying, when are you going to quit? I said, when we get the right deal and the justice that was supposed to get when we signed the treaty and 167 years ago. But we've been working hard. We have a longhouse now. We offer education and environment programs and provide financial help and services to our tribal members. Though we gave up 54,000 acres, which is under the land under the Point Elliott Treaty, we have determined to survive, even though we managed to purchase and develop less than an acre. I always brag around. I just want to let you know we do own 2/3 of an acre. I'm happy about that. There is so much important work to do, and the Duwamish tribe continues to survive and thrive, waiting for justice. Our people, always people, are welcome visitors, strangers, friends, and dignitaries. It's been a real long journey for me to head up a continuous fight for federal acknowledgement. As the elder of the tribe, now, I have not given up, and I will not give up. As a mother and grandmother and a tribal leader, the acknowledgement of the Chief Seattle Material Tribe is not only all of us living here today, tomorrow, and our ancestors, but it's also about the legacy of our mothers and daughters and women like me matter. Time to acknowledge, respect the material tribe and the integrity of Chief Seattle's mother. Have curriculum and culture and many stories to tell about where we come from and who we are, how we are against all odds. I have been really moved by the overwhelming support from many people, public, and they continue to pour in, raising awareness, and so many other thousands of renters. Sorry. Oh, I do. They come and they introduce themselves. You know what? I love you. You know, this is something that happened several years ago, and our tribe appreciates the real renters. Across the Puget Sound state, county, and the world, we are raising their hands in support of our cause, the Duwamish tribe. And I thank you for standing with the Duwamish tribe. The final thing I want to share with you is the fruit of the Spirit is joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control, and love. And that's where we all should get, I think. Thank you very much.
I'd like to invite Elder and Tribal Council Member Ken Workman.
Good evening. Just thanking my friend Jake for his work here today. This microphone. Yayus dobs tidsta hat the Duwabs. Yayus means work. Dobs means man. I am workman, the Duwamish tribe. Yabs, and great grandson of Chief Seattle. And so people ask me, well, who are the Duwamish and who are you? And so I can explain that by your simple presence in this great house on the banks of the Duwamish River. So Duwab Stola, Duwamish River. It's just to the east of us, probably 200 feet, and we're on the edge, the West Duwamish Way Greenbelt. And so in this place where we are today, in Ha'apus is an ancient Indian village. It's Ha'apus and it's Herring House, Tulaltu. There were major houses here, big houses, and many people lived here. This was a very rich area because the salmon ran up this river, the singular river in Seattle. They were plentiful. River was 3 times the size that it is today. And so we were happy, had plenty of food. And at this time of year, in May, when the spring plants come alive and the air is crisp and it's sweet, this is the time of the year we as Native people pray for. This is the good time because we've made it through the winter. And now the good times are here. The air is crisp and sweet up here in the Northwest. And when the waves crash against the shores on our Elliott Bay and the smell of the seashore resonates in your nostrils, this is who we are. The waves as they crash against the shore and the sounds, the rhythmic sounds pound, and they imprint themselves, those sounds on us. This is who we are as people. And so when people ask me, well, who am I? I say, I am workman of the Duwamish tribe. I was born here. I was born on the shores of Elliott Bay and raised in the very woods behind this longhouse. And so when these woods come alive, we recognize that our people are in these woods. The birds are calling and they're saying, it's springtime, I'm making a nest, come and be with me. And when the sun sets, they're saying, hey, the sun is setting, come and be with me, it's time to go home. And then when the evening sun sets and the mist rises up out of the woods, the sweet, pungent air is only in the Northwest, and that's who we are. Because I'm retired. I'm a modern Native American, retired from an aerospace industry and a flight operations engineering society. And so I have on one side of me, I have scientific knowledge. And on the other side of me, I have deep DNA roots to this place. And so how do I reconcile the both of them? And they are both coming together in perfect harmony. And we know that because we know as people that we are part of the planet. We know that we are in the very trees that are behind this longhouse sitting on the banks of the Duwamish River. We are in the very wood that these houses are made out of. And we know this because of the research of a Dr. Susan Samard, who has studied the symbiotic relationship between the roots in the ground and the fungi, and how biologic material breaks down and is absorbed back up through the roots of the trees. And our relatives therefore live in the trees and they continue to work for us today. And so we recognize that and we thank them for that. We say, thank you, grandmother and grandfather, for your life. That we see your life in everything. And so we say thank you for that. And these woods right here and this air right here is the place where our ancestors are. They are in the ground and they have been in the ground for 10,000 years. And we as modern Duwamish people are here. And we are stewards of this ground and we take care of this ground because we recognize our ancestors still live in the trees, in the grass, and in the berries. And so we say thank you every day that we live here. We appreciate that. So when people ask who the Duwamish are, they're simply people of a place. And the place is known as Seattle, named after my great great-great-grandfather. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to invite Tribal Council Member Desiree Fagan.
My name is Desiree Fagan. I am from the Garrison family, whose roots are deeply rooted in this place. I am fifth generation descendant of Chief Self. My Duwamish father descends from my grandmother, who descended from a long line of strong, resilient Duwamish women. My grandmother, great-great-grandmothers, and ancestors descended from the Duwamish tribe's first resistor, Kiki Sobu. From fifth generations of Duwamish women, I come from the maternal tribe of Chief Seattle. Every month, I take my kids to the Longhouse for culture class. We practice language, we learn the traditions, listen to stories of our ancestors, make hand drums, weave and craft from the sacred cedar that surrounds us. As an unrecognized tribe, we have limitations. We cannot fully practice our culture, traditions, learn history and language. We have to ask permission to display our own artifacts and care for our ancestors' bones. We have had to buy back the land our longhouse stands on. We have continued to govern and organize our tribe, even as the villages were burned along the Duwamish River. Our tribe has remained alive throughout time. We have practiced our culture, gathered as families, and celebrated and mourned together the loss of tribal members who waited for this long overdue recognition. I want my sons to experience canoe journey as we join other tribes on the annual summer journey through the Salish Sea. I want them to skipper and lead all tribes' canoe journey one day for our tribe and their children. I want my twin daughters to grow up knowing that they came from the maternal tribe of the great Chief Seattle, that they will too lead like strong women in our tribe. I want all children and all of the children of the Duwamish tribe to learn Lushootseed, our language, our culture, and history, and never deny their heritage. But as long as we've been fighting for recognition, I know we also have to imagine the future. We have to keep the culture alive through our youth, and they are the next generation who must know where they come from and to know that they descend from the maternal tribe of Chief Seattle, the Duwamish tribe. Our justice is long overdue. Thank you.
I'd now like to invite our Tribal Council member, James Rasmussen.
Good afternoon, everybody. As was said, my name is James Rasmussen. I always say this, and it's very important, I guess, today. It's a good Indian name. You're supposed to laugh. I've served on the Duwamish Tribal Council for well over 30 years, and I'm now back on the Tribal Council because my arm is twisted behind my back. Before me, my mother, Ann Rasmussen, served on the Tribal Council for about 30 years as well. Before her, my grandfather, Myron Overacker, served on that Tribal Council that was reinvigorated in 1925. And he eventually became secretary of the council. And I remember him telling me stories about going to Tulalip to help them organize their councils. I remember him telling me going to Muckleshoot to do the same thing because they needed to modernize their councils just as the Duwamish tribe had done. And so saying that, I I want to welcome you to this place, and it is a special place. It is, took a long time to put together. And now we have a place where we can tell our story. But I also want to recognize we're talking about how special day this is and our hopes for justice in the future. It's important to recognize those that have gone on, those that aren't able, at least in this world, to participate today, like my mother who passed away, my grandfather who passed away, and many other tribal members that are not here today. And we keep going because of them. It's on their backs that we climb, and that's who we are. I feel very honored to be here today. And I, again, want to welcome all of you and thank you again for showing up today. My work has to do with this river. And I'll be quite honest with you, it's a Superfund site. About 20 years ago, 21 years ago now, it was designated. But my work on this river started well before that. Creek restorations, habitat restorations, and all of those type of things that we've done on the river. The Duwamish tribe has been involved with this for decades and decades and decades. Because that's what we're supposed to do. This is our home. When I first started on this river, you didn't see herons here. You didn't see eagles here. Didn't see otters here, or a lot of the life that we have today. And it's because of that kind of work that was done on this river that I could happily tell you that today on the Duwamish River, we have more variety of animal life on the Duwamish River than any other place in the city of Seattle. And it's because of the work that was done here. And I'm proud of that. So when you think about the Duwamish tribe, it is not just as Ken has described it as, you know, in the trees and in the spring as it comes up and in the berries. But it's also this river behind us that is alive, just like we are. And I'm going to make this one statement, is that the recovery of the Duwamish River must include the restoration of the Duwamish tribe. And we hope that they all happen together, because that will be a great day for everyone. The communities around us that we help support, and they help support us. My hope for this future of this tribe is that we will finally get the justice. One thing was said earlier, we keep hearing that term unrecognized. You know, we are and have been recognized by the Clinton administration, Chinook and Duwamish. We were recognized. The papers were signed. And some reason we get clawed back. That is probably one of the most important facts that everybody can take away today, is that it was improper when they did it the first time. And as far as people have said, this goes back to the end of the Clinton administration. Duwamish tribe is owed reparations all the way back to that time. not to whenever they get around to it, but back to that time. So with all humbleness, a special thank you to our tribal chair, who side by side, her and I, National Congress of American Indians, United States Congress committee meetings, Senate Select Committee on Indian Affairs, telling them over and over and over, the process you're using for recognition doesn't work. And then their answer is, yeah, we know it doesn't work, but we don't have anything else. That's the kind of thing we're dealing with. It doesn't work. Instead of following their own rules, they don't follow their own rules. And it results in us having to go to court. But it's a proud tradition. Samish won their recognition through court. And I was here in town and I remember being at the courthouse watching that. And even after they won their case, they had to go back again and again because the BIA would try to just screw with them. They finally got everything that they should have. That's my hope for our future. And what we want to do, as we do here today, lifting our hands up and saying thank you to you. What we also do is want to lift you up. Lift you up along with us so that we can all be who we should be. The recognition of the Duwamish tribe should be more or just as much about the people in the city of Seattle as it is about Duwamish people. It should be about the people in South Park. It should be about the people in Georgetown who know who they are. I raise my hands and Lord, Great Spirit above, smile on us. Thank you.
Lupe Gamboa has a few remarks on behalf of the Lupe Barnes, excuse me, as board president of the Duwamish Tribal Services, the nonprofit arm of the Duwamish Tribe.
Yatahe, bienvenidos and welcome. Welcome, friends. It is good to see everybody here for this wonderful event. I am Lupe Barnes, not Gamboa, Lupe Barnes of the Royval clan from the Tewa place in southern New Mexico, close to Las Cruces, which is not recognized either. I am also Azteca from Tula and Tarumara from the Sierra Madres. You know, they were the runners for the Spanish and I can't run. Anyway, I'm the former vice principal from Chief Sealth High School for 17 years. And I know some of you probably had me as your vice principal and either you liked me or you didn't, but that's okay. I am also a longtime friend of the Duwamish tribe. I think I've been known Cecile for at least 19, 20 years, something like that. But anyway, today is an eventful day and hopefully I don't want to speak too long, but as you've heard, you know, in 1855, Chief Seattle signed the Treaty of Point Elliott on behalf of the Suquamish and Duwamish people. The treaty and the negotiations with the federal officials that followed made provisions for reservations at Fort Madison and elsewhere in the Puget Sound. There was no mention of the reservation for the Duwamish, nor was it recorded. Reservations are recorded for the rest of the tribes, thus leaving the Duwamish, the people of the inside, homeless. The Duwamish people have been forced from their longhouses by the US Army because they burned them because they didn't want them to come back. Again, homeless. The appointed reservations the federal government established would have put the Duwamish people with traditional enemies far away from the ancestral villages and the burial grounds. Again, homeless. With a city named after the chief and the rivers named after the chief, why is the tribe unrecognized, acknowledged? I am honored to be part of the Duwamish tribe, the board, and in ending, please remember this. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Martin Luther King.
Lupe, Barnes. I'd like to introduce Art Friedman, lead counsel of K&L Gates, to start the discussion and presentation of the affirmative lawsuit on behalf of the Duwamish Tribe.
Good afternoon. This morning, on behalf of the Duwamish Tribe, complaint was filed, United States District Court here in Seattle. Talk a little bit about it. Details, and I also would like to acknowledge the enormous amount of work that this team has done. It's been our privilege to represent the Duwamish for over a decade. Theo Angeles, who again has been there from the very start, and most of the other folks here have worked for just many years. I think Ben Mayer has worked on this since in the firm. I also wanted to mention a person who's not here, is not with our firm anymore, but John Harrison, who you'll hear in a little bit, did an enormous amount of work. And people don't know this, but in fact, it's really hard to overturn a decision by a federal agency. And almost a decade ago, United States District Court here overturned the denial, overturned the action by the Department of Interior. That's a really hard thing to do. They found that the actions in denying recognition of Duwamish Tribe were arbitrary and capricious. And in non-legal language, that means it was really, really erroneous. The high standard to meet. Court found that that decision had to be rejected because it was arbitrary and capricious. I don't think people, when they talk dismissively about the legal status of the Duwamish Tribe, recognize that the courts have rejected the actions by the Department of Interior. What's unfortunate is that when the court sent it back to the department for another decision, the department doubled down on that mistake. They made precisely the same error that was rejected already. And so we're back again, having gone through the appeals process from that to a final action to once again challenge that decision. But we're going to do more than just challenge the decision of that administrative agency. We're seeking to ask the court to directly recognize the tribe. We don't want to do another decade. Cecile, through this whole process, we'll ask, when are we going to hear something? It's a slow process. We want to not, lawyers can take pride in having a rare decision to reject a federal agency. But if that gives us another decade of process, that's not what any of us are looking for. So I think it's important to understand that there's some emerging principles in the way tribes are treated. And the United States Supreme Court in the case called McGirt recently really said that a promise made is a promise that needs to be kept. It's not something that can be eroded by practice. It's not something that can be eroded by things like the United States Corps of Engineers creating locks that drained the Black River and eliminated the site of the last Duwamish village. The United States can't expel and then say, well, you don't exist as a tribe. We don't see you here in Seattle. We just see a name. We don't see a tribe. Those are actions that we are challenging because the United States Congress in 1859 is the date that the Treaty of Point Elliott was ratified. That is a government-to-government relationship. That is a recognition of by the United States Congress of the Duwamish Tribe. And the Department of Interior does not have the legal authority to overturn that decision. When the United States Congress, what that McGirt case stands for, is that the United States Congress acts. In that case, it was to establish a reservation. The practice of others can't overturn that decision. So we're seeking to have the courts recognize that that relationship that started in 1859 exists today. And again, though if you listen to some people who talk dismissively about the tribe, you wouldn't think that there was an ongoing government to government relationship between the tribe and the United States. That's also false. As James and others were talking about, in 1925, the Duwamish tribe organized itself in the current legal entity, and it brought a suit for violation of the treaty, and it was successful in that. It was as identified by the court as the existing indigenous tribe that had standing, which means it has the legal capacity to act for the historic tribe in bringing those damages. So again, we have Congress, we have the courts, and you wouldn't think that the Department of Interior had recognized the tribe, but they have as well. Many of the people here in the 50s and 60s, before the current set of rules, the Department of Interior issued identity cards to the Duwamish tribe as tribal members that had benefits for hunting and fishing and educational benefits. Yet, after they established the modern set of rules, those are withdrawn. Again, that's an illegal action. That's an action that we seek to address. So there's also a whole history of federal appropriations to the Duwamish tribe. So there's a long, well-established relationship that Tim Hobbs is going to go into more detail about in explaining the claims in the complaint. But we are going to ask the court to acknowledge that there is this repeated and ongoing federal recognition of the tribe. The court needs to act to acknowledge that. Another leg of the complaint that is filed here, the tribe is going to put up legal documents so they're available for the public, is you heard a lot about Duwamish women this morning. You heard a lot about families, the families from whom the tribe is descended. Well, there's another really unfortunate history in the way those Duwamish women families were treated. The United States has discriminated against the Duwamish tribe based on their descendancy through Duwamish women. It was the practice and policy of the United States when Duwamish women married what was dismissively called by the Department of Interior pioneer marriages, as if that tribal and Duwamish identity ceased to exist when a Duwamish woman married someone who was not Duwamish. The children of those families were not identified as Native American. Well, I think you can see that this tribe, which is the Department of Interior both acknowledges as over 99% descended from the historic tribe, and is also descended through 5 primary female-led matriarchal clans, is in fact completely tied to the historic tribe. That concept that a matriarchal tribe ceases to retain its identity as a Native American tribe if a woman marries someone who is not Native American, it's simply false. Those communities persisted. They persisted in their cultural identity, and they persisted as active and dynamic members of the Duwamish tribe. So again, we bring 3 primary claims here: that the administrative decision needs to be overturned, that the courts should recognize the Duwamish tribe based on the unbroken federal recognition of the tribe, and lastly, that there has been a constitutional violation in the way the tribe has been treated based on its ascendancy from women. And Shelby Stoner, who's also a key member of our team, is going to talk about that aspect of our case. And now Tim Hobbs is to talk more about the record.
Thank you, Bart, and thank you, members of the council and of the tribe. It is truly an honor and a privilege to be here with you today. The Duwamish Tribe filed this lawsuit because the Department of Interior refuses to recognize it as a tribe of indigenous peoples. But the Duwamish Tribe has existed here in what is now known as the city of Seattle since time immemorial. The Department of Interior says that the Duwamish Tribe is not legitimate and does not deserve to be recognized by the US government. But the Department of Interior is wrong, and its actions are unlawful and discriminatory. We look forward to proving this in court, and we are confident that justice will prevail. The reality is that Congress and other federal authorities have repeatedly recognized the Duwamish Tribe for over 150 years. Art just talked about some of these, but let me give you the highlights. Starting with the Treaty of Point Elliott in 1855 that we've heard about today. That treaty was ratified by the Senate in 1859 and proclaimed by the US government that same year. For the next 65 years, the US Congress appropriated funds to the Duwamish Tribe to fulfill the obligations under that treaty. But unfortunately, Congress's appropriations to the Duwamish Tribe fell short of what was promised. And so the Duwamish Tribe sued the United States. And in 1934, the United States Court of Claims recognized the Duwamish Tribe as the historic tribe that signed the Treaty of Point Elliott. And the court further held that the tribe was entitled to sue the United States for tribal claims arising out of that treaty. 23 years later, in 1957, the Indian Claims Commission officially recognized the Duwamish Tribe as an identifiable tribe of indigenous peoples and as the successor in interest to the Treaty of Point Elliott. That commission awarded a $62,000 judgment in favor of the Duwamish Tribe to compensate the tribe for the loss of its ancestral lands, lands that comprise present-day Seattle. Then in 1966, Congress passed yet another act recognizing the Duwamish Tribe and appropriating the funds necessary to pay the judgment rendered by the Indian Claims Commission in favor of the Duwamish Tribe. But today, the Department of Interior refuses to recognize this overwhelming historical record of continuous recognition of the Duwamish Tribe by Congress and other federal authorities. The Department of Interior says that the Duwamish Tribe ceased to exist, but it has been here for millennia. It is right here. We are standing in its longhouse. These are its people. We are next to a river that bears its very name. And we are standing in a city named for their chief. Denying formal recognition to the Duwamish Tribe has been a grave injustice. And the Department of Interior's actions are an affront to the US Constitution and longstanding Supreme Court precedent. Once a tribe is recognized by Congress or by a US court decision, as the Duwamish Tribe has been, only Congress has the power to terminate that formal recognition of the tribe. And Congress has never acted to terminate the Duwamish Tribe's recognition or to limit its rights under the Treaty of Point Elliott. That is the end of the matter. The Department of Interior lacks authority to override these prior determinations by Congress and courts. Art just mentioned a case that came out recently from the Supreme Court called McGirt versus Oklahoma. And in that decision, the Supreme Court said this. It said, if Congress wishes to withdraw its promises made to tribes, it must say so. Unlawful acts performed long enough and with sufficient vigor are never enough to amend the law. To hold otherwise would be to elevate the most brazen and long-standing injustices over the law, both rewarding wrong and failing those in the right. The Department of Interior's refusal to recognize the Duwamish tribe does just that. It elevates a brazen and long-standing injustice. And we are calling upon the courts to end that once and for all. Thank you. I'll turn it now over to Shelby.
Everyone, Shelby Stoner. Like Tim, it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be on your legal team. So thank you. So why won't the department recognize the Duwamish tribe? Department agrees that 99% of today's members descend from the historic tribe that signed the Treaty of Point Elliott, that lived here for centuries. But the department takes issue with the ancestors of today's members, primarily Duwamish women who were forced to flee Seattle in the late 1800s, and many of whom married non-Indigenous settlers. The department contends that these Duwamish women somehow abandoned the Duwamish tribe. These Duwamish women did not abandon the tribe. Chief Seattle's own daughter, Princess Angeline, famously refused to leave Seattle in the face of ordinances banning Indigenous people and Indigenous women in particular from residing in the city or even being in the city after dark. These Duwamish women did not abandon the tribe. They maintained their social, political, and cultural ties to the tribe. It was the children and grandchildren of these Duwamish women who in the early 1900s organized to secure a reservation for the tribe, to guarantee their treaty fishing and hunting rights, and to realize the unfulfilled promises of the Treaty of Point Elliott. In 1925, the Duwamish tribe, again led by the children and grandchildren of these Duwamish women, was one of the first tribes in Western Washington to establish a constitution. And that constitution still governs the tribe to this day. The Department of Interior's justification to refuse recognition to the Duwamish tribe is the same justification it used more than a century ago. Until 1920, the Department of Interior officially excluded as a matter of policy Indigenous women who married outside the tribe and their children from tribal enrollment. The department's policy toward the Duwamish tribe is no different. According to the department, the ancestors of today's members cannot be considered part of the tribe because they were women who married outside the tribe and refused to move to reservations at the turn of the 20th century. This is discrimination based on sex. It violates the United States Constitution and the Duwamish tribe's guarantee of equal protection under the laws. At the very least, this lawsuit is being filed to stop the Department of Interior from discriminating against the Duwamish tribe because of the sex of their ancestors. Thank you.
So in conclusion, I think it's important for all tribal people, tribes like Chinook, tribes like Fish, but any tribal party, the number of promises and commitments made Native American tribes that have been broken is essentially the same as the number of promises that have been made. This principle that we're seeking to force is the idea that the legal commitments that were made to tribes are commitments that need to be honored, and they don't get eroded by practice. We sit here in the Longhouse, said, in the city named for Chief Seattle, on the river named for the tribe. The Chief Seattle was sort of honored by having his name identified with the city, but the Duwamish tribe is fundamental to the city. Can't have sort of lip service of identifying the city of Seattle and excluding the Duwamish tribe from the same community. As we said, I mean, the rights and benefits are fundamental at a cultural level. I mean, imagine this, we are literally standing across the street from a historic Duwamish village. The Duwamish tribe's not legally able to hold the relics of their ancestors because it's not federally recognized. It's a travesty of justice. In this recent COVID epidemic, the Duwamish tribe did not have the health benefits. They didn't have the benefits that recognized tribes had to be able to take care of their own people. So it's been an enormous help that Real Rent has, but the Duwamish tribe is entitled to the legal benefits of federally recognized status. The Department of Interior is on the wrong side of history. It's on the wrong side of law. Everything that this community is doing now to recognize this injustice supports the legal battle. The two can't be separated. We know it's always challenging to compel a federal agency to take an action that it has rigorously refused to do, but that's where we are headed. As Ken Workman says, the Duwamish tribe is here. It's here culturally, and it's here literally in the DNA of the trees. But the Duwamish tribe needs to be an ongoing and vibrant part of Seattle. Needs to be recognized, and it needs to be an active part of this community and recognized as such by all the other governmental authorities, from the federal government to the state to the local government. And so we're here today at the start of another long battle, but we're committed, and we look forward to a gathering at some time that recognizes the status of the Duwamish tribe as one of the federally recognized tribes in the United States. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bart, and the team of K&L Gates. Before I take questions, I wanted to actually invite a couple of the key supporters' testimonials, because with every great case for justice, there is a great cause and a movement for justice. As an unusual position that the Duwamish tribe has been placed in is that over the years, it has been a long and lonely road. But since 2017, a group called the Duwamish Solidarity Group responded to the call and simple statement by Tribal Chair Cecile Hansen when they asked her, what more could we do to support and amplify your cause? She answered that imagine if this great city and its residents paid $1 for rent voluntarily to the tribe to help us so that we're not struggling to keep the lights on. We're not struggling to figure out what kind of programming and how much programming we can offer to our tribal members and to share with the public. So I invite Lori Bohm, who represents 21,000 real renters. Come speak.
Hello. My name is Lori Bohm Gibson, and I'm honored to be here as a Duwamish Solidarity Group member and real renter, living on the unceded ancestral lands of the Duwamish. So as you've heard, the Duwamish Solidarity Group, or DSG, originally began in 2010 to support the Duwamish tribe in the ways that they request and in efforts that they lead, always working at the speed of trust. It was started by non-natives who recognized, even at that time, the Duwamish as the ongoing tribe of this land. We work from a foundation of anti-racism, humility, and accountability, understanding that the Duwamish know what they need more than we do. DSG has assisted the tribe on many projects, including their last attempt at federal acknowledgement. Real Rent came about in 2017, and it was started by DSG as a way to increase Duwamish resources and recognition, with the tribe really only involved to give their approval. As mentioned earlier, there are now over 20,000 real renters who recognize the Duwamish as the first peoples of this land, who recognize the sovereignty of the Duwamish and are giving monthly amounts that range from $5 to $540 or even more. These funds are given directly to the tribe to use as they see fit. Real Rent was among the first and is still one of the largest efforts nationally to recognize that our land was originally stolen from specific Indigenous peoples who are still here, and to try to make amends to them financially. To those of you out there who are real renters, please know that your collective support has helped lead to the increased public recognition of the Duwamish and helped build the momentum that has brought us to this important moment. As real renters know, federal acknowledgement of the Duwamish tribe is not something that should only matter to the Duwamish. This is something that matters to the larger Seattle community. Isn't our city named in honor of the Duwamish and the Suquamish leader, Chief Seal, who befriended the first white settlers? Yet year after year, we dishonor this great chief's name by not offering his people the dignity, respect, and rights of a tribal nation. Non-native people need to support federal acknowledgement for the Duwamish because no matter who owns the land on paper, we are all living here without ever having been invited. We have all benefited from its beauty and its bounty while simultaneously living in ways that have hurt this land irreparably. And we are all complicit in the immeasurable pain and disregard that the Duwamish people have experienced from the time the first colonizers arrived to today. Our silence has been our complicity. Yet by supporting these acknowledgement efforts now, we have the opportunity to do some repair. With federal acknowledgement, the tribe can better support the health and well-being of its members, their culture, and their historical and current legacy. With a strong, healthy, and united Duwamish tribe, we can be a better city and region, a place that admits its history, that values all of its people and works with them to do better in the future. We too will become a stronger, healthier, and more united region. We have much to learn from the original stewards of this land, from how to live in harmony with the flora and fauna, to navigating conflict with dignity, to incredible bravery and resilience. But we think that the Duwamish have waited long enough to be federally acknowledged. This is a call to action for all people across Seattle, King County, and the greater region to stand with the Duwamish. I ask you all to go to www.duwamishtribe.org, stand-with-the-Duwamish, to find all the ways that you, all of us, can help support this effort. Help us tell everyone that the Duwamish people are still here, still fighting for their recognition, and it is past time for all of us to step up in support of the tribe's rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. And our last speaker brings us back to a moment of blessings. We are proud to be joined today with a number of faith leaders, both in spirit and in person and by Zoom. And today we'd like to ask Reverend Brown to come say a few words and bless us on this special day.
To you, great elders, I honor you this day and thank you for allowing me to be in this sacred. I am the Reverend Dr. Kelly Brown, Senior Pastor of Plymouth Church United Church of Christ in the heart of Duwamish land on 6th and University. We are a church who are real renters who collectively offer its solidarity and shared power to you. And I join you today as a voice urging collective movement toward our reclaiming of our national moral center by honoring and acknowledging the Duwamish today. I join you also as an African-American woman from the Deep South, from Creek land, from Georgia. And I am more than an ally, but one who is in solidarity with you and our common goal to secure your federal recognition as a tribe. I join together with those of us who say it is not enough to humbly stand on Duwamish land or to offer only land acknowledgements before our meetings without understanding the terror, the suffering, and the diminished lives that are tied up in our slow grind toward justice. Come on, you can clap it out. We need to stand in solidarity. It's not for me, it's for you. I join with you, my siblings, in this continuous trail of tears in honor of your discrimination and your injustice, and in search for your reparations and for mine, even as some of us still wait for 40 acres and a mule. Right. And I come to you as the child of African enslaved ones, known as 3/5 of a person for political reasons, and only valued in practical terms for our strong backs and our full breasts. I come as the grandchild of my great-great-grandmother who ate out of a trough with pigs, whose resilience allowed for her children to have doctoral degrees. I come as one of a people acquainted with grief and broken promises from our government, with marks of lynching and water hoses and dog bites and bombings from a people who had to be out of the Tri-Cities of Washington State, just as you had to be out of Seattle by sundown. And I come acknowledging the vicious phantom of forced exile by way of reservations and plantations, as many thrive in abundance, opulence on your 54,000 acres stolen and occupied to become this city. And I come to you as the prophetic offspring of people that still they wish would simply evaporate. As the child of people like Ella Baker, who said, "We who believe in freedom shall not rest." I stand before you like Fannie Lou Hamer, who said, "I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired." I come to you to testify for the Duwamish, to say that there is an uncashed promissory note that the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. spoke about. I say to this country, it is time to stop bouncing this check. Dear friends, how can we believe in a more perfect union until the Duwamish is joined with us? How do any of our common documents in this of so-called liberation have any meaning if the treaties to the Duwamish don't? How can we believe that any of us are free, especially in this place where the Elliott Treaty was signed, if in fact we do not honor the Duwamish sovereignty? Yes, this is about political recognition, but this is a spiritual matter, for it angers God when we walk by the color purple and do not recognize its beauty. It is a matter of faith to lift up the oppressed, the disenfranchised, the marginalized, the least and the last. And this work does not belong only to our children. This is our work. The time is always ripe to do what's right, as Dr. King spoke, and we are called by the Eternal One to build the beloved community of which the Duwamish is a significant and crucial part. There's a song that sings, "Somebody is hurting our people." And it's gone on far too long, and we won't be silent anymore. One cannot crush a rock and then look at the rock and say that it never existed. You can't break the wing of an eagle and punish it for not flying. Therefore, we must stand with you elders and thank you for remaining alive and here so that you can stand as witness that they could not kill you, for still you rise. Friends, there is no more time for the lethargy of lingering injustice. The time is now to do what is right for the Duwamish people and for our own collective souls. We are the ones we have been waiting for. And in this sacred longhouse, on this holy and hallowed ground of the Duwamish, in this city that is named for Chief Seattle, the first city named as one of compassion, in this county named for the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., may we, each of us, resolve to be moved by the forces of justice and righteousness, and may our sorrow turn to actions of repair and resistance, and may we be the source from which all justice flows like a mighty stream. Amen.
Thank you so much, Reverend Dr. Brown. That was incredibly inspiring and moving. We have about 10 minutes. I know that we have run over, but we have about 10 minutes to field some questions from reporters, both in the room as well as by Zoom. Yeah.
What you're asking is something that's really obvious in the room. And I want everybody to know, my cousins, my aunties, my uncles, my grandfathers and grandmothers that are in different reservations in different places in different tribes that are Duwamish. Our fight is not with you. It has never been with you. Our fight is with the federal government. And you should support this. Because right now, if the Duwamish tribe is not part of that treaty, then how much is that treaty worth? So again, our fight is not with you. Don't listen to your attorneys to tell you how to deal with us, because we might be threatening to you. We are your cousins, aunties, uncles, grandfathers, and grandmothers. We want to help support, and you to help us as well. That's what this is about. It is not about a big power grab at all. It is our rightful place. And they need to understand that as well.
Thank you, James. And we're here today fundamentally about the Duwamish tribe. And I just want to add a little bit to what James said. It's important to understand that the United States, really the actor that's the heart of what we're talking about. At treaty time, the United States had a deliberate practice to break down tribal identities. People were faced with really cruel dilemmas. So there were the reservations that were promised weren't established. There are people of Duwamish heritage at the Muckleshoot tribe. There are people, the Tulalip reservation was established as a so-called general reservation in which the United States tried to force a whole variety of tribal members to go to, including Duwamish. And there are Duwamish people there, there are Duwamish people at other tribes, but that is fundamentally different. The tribe exists intact as the treaty tribe with a political relationship with the United States. As James said, there's nothing in the assertion of Duwamish tribal identity that's meant to undermine the cultural identity of any individual who, for absolutely understandable reasons, went to a reservation because that's how they could maintain their family. But that's not to say that the families of the Duwamish women and other communities who made different choices are not every bit as entitled to that same heritage. And the United States, who has been anything but a friend to the Duwamish, in these same findings that people cite as negative, found that the Duwamish tribe, the people here today, are 99% descended from that historic tribe. No one else can make that statement. And that is the tribal and political identity we seek to preserve, not in any way an attempt to deny the cultural heritage. And as James said, Duwamish tribe welcomes people of Duwamish heritage in affiliating in any.
Thank you, Bart and James. I wanted to also point out, we've got copies of the brief over there at our communications table. We'll also make it available online on site. If we could actually have reporters who are asking questions, state their name as well as their affiliation, and our communications team has a microphone so that the folks on Zoom can hear.
Hi, my name is Colleen Kimsey-Love. I'm with the Seattle Met Magazine. I've been listening and following along, and I was wondering if you could explain a little bit more in layman's language why this new legal action is happening at the federal district court level instead of previous strategies.
Actually, it's exactly the same. It's an extension of exactly what has been going on. To just get into the legal weeds a little bit, when the federal agency reaches a final action, then it can be challenged, and the place you challenge it is in federal district court. The denial, the prior denial by the agency was challenged in federal district court, and it was overturned. And it went back to the agency, and they made the same decision. And then we pursued what are called administrative appeals. We went through administrative appeals within the Department of Interior, ultimately went to the Secretary of the Interior, who in 2019 entered the final agency action upholding those denials. So this is the prescribed method for challenging those agency actions, and we're bringing that appropriate similar challenge that we did before. We're also adding to that these additional elements to the claim that we discussed that are outside of that agency process, but basically kind of following along the path that the law requires to challenge the department.
Thank you, Bart. Is there another question? I think we have time for one other question. Yes, if you, Charlie?
Thank you. Hi, my name is Agatha. I'm with KNKX Radio, and I would just like to know what would it look like to finally get federally recognized? How would that change? What would be the benefits? And what would it look like?
James?
Yeah, we're going to line up the rail cars and just make sure everybody gets out of here. That's an old joke, people. Understand why our charge is counsel. since my grandfather's time, the Constitution that they put together was for the health and the welfare of Duwamish people. And that means the government, when we signed that treaty, was supposed to take care of health, welfare, and education. Those are the reasons that we are looking for being recognized. That's it, is for the health, welfare, and education of our people. That's what you will see change. You will see that opportunity that was denied us for the COVID, and we lost tribal members because of that. Other recognized tribes got money to be able to make sure their members were vaccinated and had masks and everything else. We did not get that. That's what this is about, is that we deserve that right to be recognized just as the rest of the treaty should stand. Does that answer your question?
Recognition would also mean preservation of historic artifacts. So by not being federally recognized, we're not allowed to hold or maintain those artifacts that come out of the ground. Those rather go to someplace else. And that to me is sacrilege. Those artifacts, those bones are here. They belong here, not belong anywhere else. So being federally recognized would give us the opportunity to maintain our own artifacts in our own house and not have those taken away. It would also mean we would have the ability to practice our own religion. And so we have, oftentimes we have materials that we use in our religious ceremonies that we as non-federally recognized tribes are not allowed to possess. The eagle feather as an example. If I am caught with an eagle feather, I will be fined $250,000 and thrown in jail. So the United States government has seen fit to bankrupt me and imprison me and deny me of my own religion. So these are the things that federal recognition will empower us to take care of the ground that we have here, take care of our people that are in the ground, that are in the trees, maintain our religious freedom, take care of our people. Thank you.
I think we're going to close at this time. We're about 40 minutes over our schedule. I want to thank everyone, all of our speakers, the Tribal Council, the Board of Directors of the Duwamish Tribal Services, our guest speakers, Dr. Reverend Brown, as well as Lori Bohm, and of course, our legal team for being here. But most especially, I want to thank our friends and supporters and allies here in this room, as well as on Zoom. A special thank you and heartfelt collective standing with the Chinook tribe and the Snohomish tribe, our sisters and brothers of both tribes who we stand with as unrecognized tribes, but we recognize each other. So that concludes. Thank you to everyone on the Zoom as well. That concludes the program. If there are questions from media, please talk with Charlie McAteer. He'll get you in the right connections. And I'd like to ask the media and any photographers to exit the ceremonial hall as we start to actually prepare for the prayer and drumming circle. Thank you.